So as Israel intensifies its military offensive in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, the three-day Global Anti-Apartheid Conference for Palestine, which was held over the weekend, has adopted a declaration and a plan of action in support of Palestine. Let's unpack the outcomes of this conference with Reverend Frank Chikane, who is part of the steering committee. He joins us now. Reverend, a good morning to you. We really do appreciate you making time for us. We watch, of course, the world watches in horror as we see, some of the images that come out of Gaza and have been doing so since October the 7th. Talk to us a little bit about what you wanted to see this three-day conference achieve, Reverend, and really the biggest outcomes that you think you can be proud of.
Yeah, I must say good morning to your listeners and viewers, but I must say, we tried dealing with the worst tragedy ever in our history. We're seeing genocide light streamed, and still the powers that be who could make the difference are not doing it. And ordinary people, ordinary children are being bombed daily. It's the worst form of racism. Zionism is the most worst form of racism, especially where they want to put God. There's no God who would allow so many children and women and to be killed the way they are killing them. So we decided, per request of Palestinians, that we convene people from different parts of the world to come together for 3 days. They are experts in their own rights, lawyers and other people, to determine as to what we as the people of the world, we as humanity, should do to stop this genocide. And the view was that an anti-apartheid movement of the same nature as the one we used for South Africa is the best route. You can't change the U.S. except the people of the U.S. changing it.
Yeah. Reverend, I know that you've put together and signed a declaration as part of the conference. What is on that declaration, Reverend?
Well, the declaration deals with all the issues that needs to be dealt with. We say stop the genocide now. The Genocide Convention does not allow it. Those who support it are also genocidal, and we need to stop it. Secondly, that we stop the occupation because it is the cause of the problem. You can't blockade people for 16 years in Gaza and expect them not to do anything. So to stop the violence, you stop occupation. Third, that you stop, you allow Palestinians to determine their future. This is where they come from. This is where the generations have lived there, and that they should have the rights like anybody else, and they should not be denied that right. We want to make sure that refugees since 48, 67 are not allowed to go back home. It's the only place in the world where refugees are not allowed to go back home. We say they must return back home. And then, of course, you need to make sure that people negotiate and arrive at an agreement that gives peace to the rest of the region. This is what we are looking for. But on our side, the campaign is to boycott, to apply sanctions, disinvestment, military embargo. We're calling on all those things we called for when we dealt with apartheid in South Africa.
Yeah. Reverend, we saw again last week South Africa bringing its case once again to the International Court of Justice to really say that Israel is continuing to violate the Genocide Convention. You've seen countries such as Egypt also coming out and saying that they're in support of this work that is being done by South Africa. We watched us do this, though, very much earlier on in the year, and there was quite a bit of great pride in South Africa standing up for what they believed in at the ICJ. Do you think that has been an empty effort, though, Reverend?
No. It is the most effective strategic action South Africa has taken. You see, at the genocide at the Hague, South Africa was able to put bare what Israel is about, what it is doing in that region, and that genocide is happening as we speak. And nobody can deny that. Not even the United States denies that. And so the world, those who signed the convention, have the responsibility to stop it. So South Africa going there on Friday again is the logical action that South Africa should take. But the extraordinary thing is that although nobody could do it in December, January, everybody now, not everybody, many countries are joining South Africa to support it. And the latest has been Egypt, which Israel is unhappy about. But of course, if they commit Egypt or genocide and even blockade the border between Egypt and Gaza, then of course the Egyptians will then take this position. And we are hoping that all the neighbors, the rest of the world, will take the same position, and that together we can end this genocidal action by Israel.
Yeah, a big moment, I think, also last week when we saw the UN's General Assembly voting in favor of Palestine's bid for full membership of the UN General. So I think that's an incredibly important moment. Ronnie Caswell, Reverend, the former government minister, Ronnie Caswell says, even as we watch the UN General Assembly and the voice that's being raised there around Palestine, he believes that the tide is turning against Tel Aviv. Do you agree with that?
No, I agree specifically. You know, I clearly agree fully with him. I must say that I've said this before. You know, there's an expression that says, those which the God want to destroy, they make mad. I think it's madness to do the genocide that Israel is doing there. The tide is turning. UN members in their majority have taken that decision. And the only country that's left is the United States. And once the United States, you know, takes off its foot on the pedal, the game is over, and genocides and the people of Palestine will have freedom. This is their Sharpeville. You remember, we had our Sharpeville, and it is Sharpeville that led to the arms embargo and sanctions against South Africa. This genocide, it's exactly the same.
I find it interesting that as part of this conference, you also had the Anglican Archbishop Thabo Makgoba also speaking over the weekend. Reverend, you know, there's something to be said about having religious leaders sharing their voice as well in the matter. What do you say to that, the responsibility, if you will?
No, it is actually very important because, you know, the people are trying to make this genocide and killing of Palestinians a religious matter. There is Christian Zionism, and Netanyahu was using that and saying the Amaleks must be killed and etc. and so forth. So there is Christianity that is used there. And it is important for Christians to take a stand and say the God we believe in cannot allow this genocide that's happening there, and that the churches must take a stand and not work on the basis of the relationship with Israel of old and confuse it with this state of Israel that's genocidal. We're not against Jews. We work with Jews. By the way, at the conference, we had many Jewish representatives from the US, Britain, and other places, including South Africa. This is not about anti-Semitism. It is not about religion. It's about the rights of human beings who are Palestinians. And it's the racism that's practiced against them, that they can die. It doesn't matter. It can't be allowed in the world to discriminate against people like that. Yeah.
I suppose I'm trying to be a fly on the wall just as we wrap up, Reverend, and say, okay, so, I mean, the lesson that we take coming out of this conference over the weekend about what the role of other countries really. I see that you had Namibian Justice Minister Yvonne Dasab also in attendance. You know, what we learn from countries like Namibia, perhaps, about the importance of speaking out against what we see in Gaza, and the role then of other countries then clubbing together, if you will.
Yeah, no, we had actually Namibia there. She represented the president. She made a statement. Remember that Namibia was subjected to genocide as well by the Germans. So the genocide always comes from the north there. And those who support genocide comes from the north. And so Namibia, it's our partner in this. and the president sent a representative. We also had, former Prime Minister of Turkey. We had a representative from the former president of Bolivia. It's a civil society conference, but they felt that they could come there and be with us. We are hoping that they will assist us, working together with us to mobilize all the countries in the world. We need to stop this inhuman action. We need to stop this brutality. We need to stop the genocide. Humanity cannot escape the responsibility to end this pain.
Yeah, Reverend, an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and thank you so much for giving us your time. We really, really do appreciate it. Reverend Frank Chikane there speaking to us about the Global Anti-Apartheid activist, where he is a member of the steering committee. A declaration made over the weekend and a plan of action in support of Palestine.